This is the sad story of how the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, became the British Broadcasting Cons, broadcasting fake news about the robbery of Britain's most successful sportsman in Abu Dhabi last year. This BBC News clip purported to explain the F1 drama between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, but in actual fact, it was a heavily scripted piece of fake news designed to sell the false narrative that there were genuine grounds for believing that Michael Masi was entitled to rig the result in Abu Dhabi. It is now a matter of public record that he wasn't, but the British Broadcasting Cons went to great lengths to con its 12.5 million subscribers into believing that there was genuine uncertainty or confusion about whether he was or not. Why would the BBC debase itself and drag its reputation into the mud in this way? Was it to provoke online engagement with the 2,000 or so comments that were made? Was Lewis Hamilton excluded from the BBC Sports Personality of the Year poll because the BBC plot to provoke toxic debate about his robbery would be undermined by the British public, overwhelmingly voting him Sports Personality of the Year? Well, we will leave you to make the determination yourself, but this video will show you how the news clip was heavily scripted to give a narrative that the BBC knew was false. To begin with, the news clip did not explain the F1 drama, as the title alleged. What it did was to spin the truth, by using a half-truth, to spin a false story. There was never any doubt that Masi broke the rules to rig the results for Verstappen. It was willfully deceptive of the BBC to put up both sides of the argument, while giving more weight to the lie, allowing it to go unchallenged, and then pretending that from its neutral position, the BBC was unable to tell the difference. By putting forward a preponderance of views in support of an unchallenged lie, the BBC was in effect fueling the lie and undermining the truth. This is not what British public service broadcasting should be about. The British public deserve nothing short of the truth from a public service broadcaster. We will now go through this news clip and show you how the news was faked. The opening sequence was innocuous and gave no indication of the impending deception. What had happened in Abu Dhabi was indeed unacceptable.
Max Verstappen won the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and with it, his first Formula One World Championship.
This was the ultimate dream, and now that we have achieved that, basically for me, everything what comes next is a bonus.
What comes next has been controversy. Minutes after the race, Williams driver George Russell pressed caps lock and tweeted, "This is unacceptable." Well, this is former F1 driver David Coulthard.
A sequence of events that none of us have seen before.
However, as soon as the BBC produced David the Toad Coulthard as its first expert, it was obvious the fix was in. It is public knowledge that Coulthard is a Verstappen and Red Bull toady. We have documented this heavily in numerous videos that are available by clicking on our homepage icon, so we would invite our new subscribers and viewers to check them out. It was bad enough for the BBC to give the Toad the platform to spew his lies, but it was worse for them to allow him to tell his lies unchallenged, or at the very least, give them the appearance of truth. The deception is further entrenched by the BBC's failure to inform the viewers that the Toad is employed by Verstappen and Red Bull, and describing him simply as a former F1 driver. Further evidence of scripting by the BBC can be found in how the next pundit was presented. Maurice Hamilton, no relation, is an independent and respected motorsport writer. As we have previously documented, he was heavily critical of Masi's rigging, and called it out for what it was. However, his segment on the BBC made no reference to his well-documented views, and simply published what would appear to be his opening comments.
The two contenders equal on points, side by side on the front row of the grid. You could not write a better plot than this.
This was a deliberate attempt to minimize the truth. Maurice's views were not presented any further in the news clip, while those of the Toad and other well-known anti-Lewis and pro-Max pundits were. The next pundit that the BBC presented in this fake news clip was Eddie Jordan, another so-called pundit, well known for his pro-Max and anti-Lewis views. Eddie was given the platform to represent that Michael Masi had been wrong by not punishing Lewis for what Eddie deemed to be an infraction at the start of the race.
But this story had only just begun. On the first lap, Hamilton took the lead. Then, as Verstappen tried to overtake, Hamilton left the track, cut a corner and stayed in front. After which, race director Michael Masi decided Hamilton could keep the lead. Former F1 team owner Eddie Jordan was unimpressed.
For me, Masi was wrong. He should have asked Lewis to give back the place because Lewis ran off the road and he took a fair advantage as a result.
However, this was a matter of opinion and not fact. The BBC again exposed its deception by not providing any rebuttal of Eddie's biased opinion. For example, viewers were not told that, going into the race, there was a concern that Max could deliberately engineer a collision with Lewis, because in the event of both drivers not finishing, Max would be world champion. It therefore appeared that Max dived inside Lewis to engineer that collision, and Lewis was forced to take avoiding action. In any case, Masi had the authority to make that decision. This was nothing short of a disgraceful attempt by the BBC to represent that both Lewis and Max had had the rub of Masi's decision-making. This is simply not true, and comparing a decision that the umpire had the authority to make with one that he had no authority to make is instructive of the BBC's agenda. The next pundit was a BBC Sports presenter who simply recounted what happened in the run-up to the last lap without offering any opinion one way or the other.
They reversed the decision, allowing Verstappen to be just half a second bunched up right behind Lewis Hamilton as the safety car left the track, which was with just one lap to go.
He was followed by another independent F1 journalist who was given roughly 9 seconds to correctly point out that Lewis would have been world champion if the rules had been duly observed.
That wasn't all, though. While the lap cars between Hamilton and Verstappen were cleared, other lap cars were not, to the bemusement of F1 journalist Chris Medland.
It should either have been that those cars were still in the way or that all of the cars had to go past. And in that case, it would have meant the race probably finished on a safety car and Lewis Hamilton would have been world champion.
However, unlike what they had done with Eddie Jordan, the BBC brought the toad out again and gave him 20 seconds to counter Chris's correct analysis. Bringing out a liar to contradict the truth is not journalism or neutrality. It is bias, fake news and propaganda.
Mercedes lodged 2 appeals to overturn the result. Both were rejected. Hamilton himself congratulated Verstappen, and we all tried to make sense of what had happened. David Coulthard offered this explanation.
And the sporting regulations are hugely complex as well. And the sequence of events of only allowing 5 cars to overtake Lewis before the safety car came in is not something that typically has happened before.
So if David Coulthard says that, does that mean the race director was wrong? Not necessarily.
The FIA do have another rule which allows the race director to override that and make the decision he feels is correct.
The BBC attempted to mask or legitimise the toad's lies by describing it as his explanation. This is akin to Rudy Giuliani putting forward the obvious lies about the Dominion voting systems in support of the fraudulent stolen elections claim, on the grounds that he couldn't be expected to conduct a fact check. It didn't work for him, and it shouldn't work for the BBC. The BBC do not have any moral authority to represent themselves as fact checkers of others, when they themselves have clearly failed to check the facts of their own output. All the BBC staff that were involved in the shameful failure to fact check or challenge the lies that the toad was allowed to spew out on their platform should be sacked and banned from working as journalists. The nail in the BBC's coffin was the wheeling out of their top F1 correspondent, Andrew the Slimeball Benson, to conclude that the sporting regulations did not cover this specific situation. This is simply untrue, as we have pointed out in previous videos. It is particularly galling that the Slimeball suddenly found his voice or knowledge, months later, to declare with pious pomposity that Chris Medland and Maurice Hamilton were right all along. This is an admission that the BBC staff that produced this news clip were either grossly incompetent or badly compromised. The BBC, with total lack of self-awareness, appear to have glossed over this fact and are attempting to carry on business as usual. Hopefully, this video will stand as a record of their shameful misconduct. Why would the British Broadcasting Corporation go to the extent of producing fake news to undermine the achievement of the most successful British sportsman ever? If you cannot check the facts on your work, who are you to call others out? Thank you for your kind attention.